so exciting. Oh my goodness. Because Dr. Heather Sandison flew here from San Diego to be here today, and her new book just started shipping out June 11th. So can you believe that? Here we are in Wichita, Kansas, and we get the opportunity to gather together and hear about this groundbreaking research, her groundbreaking book. When you come here, you get garden admission. That's part of what we offer as a nonprofit. We're Empowered Senior. And part of what you get, we do this every month except January. And this is our 6th year, and it includes garden admission. So we hope you go out and see something out there today. There's a lot of children here today. Their parents parked in our parking spots. But there's a bunch of cute kids running around doing a scavenger hunt. And so you might want to go out there after you have your lunch. I'm Katherine Ambrose, and I'm the founder and president of Empowered Senior. I started this 6 years ago, about 6.5 years ago, with my husband, Randy. Randy, he's over there in the Empowered Senior blue shirt. And there's my daughter, Jillian. We started this for our real estate clients. We are longtime realtors. We're Ambrose team. And we noticed that a lot of our seniors were going through some stuff. And we thought we better equip ourselves to answer questions, because we know people have bigger issues than selling the house. We know how to sell a house. That's not a problem. And we sell most houses as is for top dollar, sometimes more than asking price. So that's easy, okay? What's hard is the clutter, right? The work that you have to do to make a move. So we created Senior Move Management here in Wichita. We're the only certified senior move managers with the National Association of Senior Move Managers. And I'm speaking at their conference for the 3rd year in a row. This year it's going to be in Chicago, which is cool because that's where my grandbabies are. So what we're doing here in Wichita is very special. This is the only seminar of its kind. There's a couple similar ones, one in Reno and one in Oklahoma City, that get great attendance. We blend, with ours, we've gotten a little creative because we're here at the gardens. So sometimes we have live music, and we have a dance break intermission, so don't freak out and run out of the room. I want you to know you can use it as a bio break. But it's very entertaining to watch because some of us are going to be dancing with Club Hope, Rebecca, owner of Club Hope. So we've got that going on. And first of all, we're going to start the way we always do, which is Bretta, can you push some buttons for me? I'm having trouble with the clicker. We're going to start by recognizing our veterans, because we know that no matter what goes on in our country, that we won the lottery by being here, by living here, and we want to recognize our veterans that became heroes when they signed their name on the line to go into service for our country. So veterans that would like to be recognized, please stand, and if you choose, come to the front of the room and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you for your service, and thanks for choosing to be here today. All right. Who's here for Dr. Heather Sandison? All right, so her book, Reversing Alzheimer's, just came out. And this is a wonderful welcome for her. Thank you so much for being here, making us look good. We appreciate you showing up. That helps us with our nonprofit efforts that you come. And that just is so awesome that you're here so we can keep doing what we do, because the education that we provide is so important. And I really want to thank our education partners, our sponsors, because without them we would not be able to do this, and they're doing it because they believe in equipping and empowering you and community education. So if we could thank our sponsors, that would be great. Bretta, can you you're good. We'll put them up on the screen. We've got a lot going on. Is the clicker working now? Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay. All right, very good. All right, so our sponsors, Catholic Charities Adult Day Services, the Regent, Providence, Home Health and Hospice, Fleece and Gooing. Not only do they sponsor our event, but they bring the coffee. So please thank them. Please, the most empowering thing you can do is meet with Jason and make sure that your essential documents are in order, because you don't want something to happen and it's too late. And then it really costs a lot of money to straighten it up. And it's very unfortunate when people don't have simple documents drawn up. So go to the Fleece and Gooing table and talk to them about what those documents are and how you can get an appointment to meet with Jason. Oxford Senior Living. So they have Oxford Villas, Oxford Grand, just opened Oxford Vista. They saved the Kansas Masonic home. They saved it. The historical campus, they bought it, and they have brought it back to life. Thank you, ladies. And we should do another Empowered Senior get-together there. I think that would be really awesome. And Lifeway Mobility. I don't know if he's here today. Harmony Homes, Harmony Home Concepts. And we got to stick to that man like glue, because that's the guy that can help you stay in your home longer. Who wants to stay in their home longer? So you can do that with the help of Providence Health Services over there, and with Phil at Harmony Home Concepts, because they can make living in your home easier and safer. Very essential. Restore First Health. They're brand new, and where's their table? Scanning. Oh, okay, very good. They also enable people to stay at home longer because they address wound care, so you get better faster and you can stay in your home, whether it's the home you own maybe right now or a home you age in place that suits you better, because some of our homes are functionally obsolescent for the stage of life that we're in, because your home was built for human beings that don't ever age. How many of you know a human being that doesn't age? And then the home ages too, which isn't so great, because then you got more maintenance and it becomes harder and harder to take care of. And so that's why we've got other options too, so you can live safer and have a better quality of life. And Randy Ambrose back there and Jillian Ambrose can talk to you more about that, or anybody with our Empowered Senior team. All right, Downsizers Club next Thursday at our office, which is conveniently located at K96 and East 13th. That's for mature adults of any age. I think most everyone in here is a mature adult. And this is where we talk about our clutter bug problems and our to-do lists, and we make sure that everybody has their essential legal documents. And so it's a lot of fun. It's way different than this, because this is kind of big to do. And Downsizers Club is casual. We give you cookies, and we just talk. It's really nice. So that's 2 to 3 next week, and we do that every month. All right, so I think you kind of already know what we do. We do in-home consults. We do family meetings where we talk to the whole family about what to do about the stuff, how the house, what other professionals we can connect you to. We manage moves, we do education, and we do PBS television. This seminar has birthed 2 television shows, the only kind in the entire country. The only kind. So we have Empowering Seniors. It's a weekly show on PBS. It is on Friday night, reruns Saturday afternoon, and Sunday evening. And then our sister show, Mindy East, where are you? Please stand if you're in the room. Whoop, there she is in bright fuchsia. So Mindy East is host of Ageless Enthusiasm, and it's really targeting boomers and Gen X. Who's a boomer? Who's Gen X? The forgotten generation. Nobody even knows who we are. And then, of course, we do real estate and senior living options. And Jillian is helping with facilitating, and so is our gerontologist on our team, Michelle Lloyd, who really helped create a lot of this today. Michelle Lloyd, if you could thank her back there. Hiring a gerontologist was like the smartest thing we ever did. And so we're really becoming a well-rounded team, and you're going to see some new branding because Empowered Seniors are non-profit, which the sponsors and Randy and I pay for to keep it going. But you're going to see us rebranding as Senior Home Coach, where we help coach you on all aspects of home and quality of life. And so you'll start seeing that branding maybe by next month, I don't know. And now we're teaching people all over the country and Canada how to do what we do, because the best way to empower seniors is teach more people how to empower seniors, because we know you want to be in charge of your own life, and that's what we're all about, is helping empower you so you can have an aging plan by design and not by default. Who would like to have an aging plan by design rather than not so good default? Okay. And then in July, we're going to do Celebrate Your Independence. So that's perfect for empowered seniors. All right, then let's get going. So Dr. Heather Sandison can introduce herself best. We also have a television episode with her coming up on Channel 8. So I'm not sure what the dates are. And I'm trying to back up to her. There we go. So Dr. Heather Sandison, thank you so much. We're so excited. So thank you for coming here.
It's such a privilege to be here. Wichita is such a special place to me because Chance and Matt from Avita Rolling Hills and their group reached out to me several years ago, and we started collaborating. Oh, thank you. Is that better? All right. We started collaborating, and so Wichita is a place I've been coming for a year or so. And in the senior living facility, Clearmind Center, this is a really, really special place. It's the only place in the country right now that is doing the work, that is implementing the work in a senior living facility that I'm about to share with you. And this work is not easy, right? I wish that there were a pill, that there were an IV that would take away the suffering associated with Alzheimer's. But unfortunately, that is not what I'm going to talk about today. I am going to tell you that there is hope, that there is lots that you can do. And so let's get started. But first, I want to ask, what is your optimal retirement? If you could close your eyes and imagine, what would this phase of life look like?
Can everyone hear?
Can everyone hear? Would you have your feet in the sand, reading a book, or would you be fishing? Might you be watching grandchildren open up ostentatious, over-the-top, completely amazing gifts thoughtfully selected by you? Or when you imagine this phase of life, do you think of yourself in a recliner, snoozing in the afternoon, having someone walk in the door and remind you to put your hearing aids in, remind you to eat, remind you where you are, remind you that they're your daughter? I want to share with you today that you can choose, that there is a lot that you can do to optimize cognitive function as you age. How do I know? This is a bold statement. It's a bold title to my new book, Reversing Alzheimer's. I'm sure many of you, who's been told there's nothing you can do? Most of us. That's what I was told when I was in training. But I've seen it. Not once, not twice, but over and over again, I've watched patients reverse their cognitive decline in my clinical practice. And I've measured it. At the Clear Mind Center, 6 people have been there for over 6 months. We opened just last April. And 5 of them have measurably improved their cognition. I also published a peer-reviewed article in the Journal of Alzheimer's Disease last year in August of 2023, and I'll tell you a little bit more about my research in a minute. The best thing about that, I'm not the only one that has measured this. I'm not the only doctor seeing this regularly in my clinical practice. Linda was the first patient I saw after being trained by my mentor, Dr. Dale Bredesen. She came into my office and she was completely dependent on her husband. Does anybody know anyone like that? They can't drive, they can't dress themselves. She couldn't communicate with more than a yes or no response to a question. And I was skeptical, like you, like many of you. I'd been told there was nothing you could do to treat Alzheimer's disease, and for me as a doctor to suggest otherwise would be to actually do harm. And so I was very skeptical when Dr. Bredesen trained me to treat this disease. The way he described it, it made sense conceptually, but I didn't believe that it was possible. But I had been trained by him, and his New York Times bestselling book, The End of Alzheimer's, had just come out. And so there were enthusiastic patients showing up in my office, and Linda and her husband were among them. She had a MoCA score of 2. So some of you may have taken this or may be familiar with this. The MoCA is the Montreal Cognitive Assessment, and it's a 30-point questionnaire. It's a 1-page worksheet where you identify zoo animals and draw a clock. Maybe this is familiar. A perfect score is 30. Normal is 26 and above. Linda was a 2. I didn't have any hope, I'll be honest. When they left that day, I didn't think I'd see them again. But 6 weeks later, they showed up, and her MoCA score had gone to a 7. She was speaking in complete sentences. They were bickering about something that had happened on the way into the office, and her looping handwriting that she had had as a school teacher was back. It had been cramped and and you couldn't read it just 6 weeks before. They had their life back. They were now ballroom dancing 3 times a week. They had changed their diet. They had actually moved out of a moldy bedroom, and they had started sleeping in their living room. They were making it work. They were going for walks every day. They had fully dove in to the protocol that we used to reverse cognitive decline, and it worked. And when I saw Linda that day, she was one of my earliest patients, and my first thought was, we measured it wrong. What did we do? This isn't supposed to be possible. And her husband assured me, no, she's different. We're different. And then I thought, if this is possible for Linda, what about everyone else? And how do we tell as many people as possible? The study that we did came out of a very fortunate position that I was in. A philanthropist came into my office, had a good experience as a patient, and asked how he could help. And of course, at that stage, I thought, gosh, it'd be really nice if you bought me a house or paid off my student loans. But I thought a little harder and asked him to fund a clinical trial, because at this stage, there were people approaching us saying, if I do this, if I put in the effort, if I change my diet, if I start going to the gym, if I pay for the supplements and the visits, how likely is it to work? And so I wanted to find out. And so what we did was we recruited 23 participants. This was all during COVID. It was really exciting. And we took them through a 6-month intervention, and they had to have, to be eligible, they had to have measurable cognitive impairment. So remember, the MoCA score is out of 30, normal is 26 and above, and to be included in the trial, you had to have a MoCA score of 12 to 23. So it couldn't just be like, oh, I'm forgetting my keys and I don't remember my neighbor's name. It had to be measurable, it had to be not just subjective, not just your experience, but we had to be able to see that there was something actually going on that was significant. And we took them through this 6-month intervention, and what we saw shocked me. 74% of our participants improved. 17 of the 23 individuals that we took through the 6-month intervention that's described in the book and that I'm going to share more about right now, they got better. Most of the time, this happens. The best thing about my study was that it's not the only one. I'm not the only one that's done this. So my mentor, Dr. Dale Bredesen, a year earlier, him and his group led by Kat Tubes, they also did a very similar trial. They recruited 25 participants, and they did a 9-month intervention, but their participants weren't quite as far declined as ours were. They had MoCA scores down to 19. What's normal? 26. Perfect is 30. And so they showed that 84% of their participants got better. So a longer intervention, not as far progressed, and even more of the participants improved. This works most of the time. And when we compare it to no treatment, what we expect on that 30-point scale, you may have also heard of the mini mental status exam or the SLUMS test out of St. Louis or the MoCA score. These are all 30-point tests that we can give to get a sense of where on the spectrum someone is with cognitive impairment. If you do nothing, the average person declines by 2 to 3 points per 12 months. A new medication, the monoclonal antibody aducanumab, or Aduhelm, was taken off the market recently. But what aducanumab did was it slowed the rate of decline. It doesn't make anyone better. It just draws out a torturous process. And it came with a hefty price tag and the potential for brain bleeding and brain swelling as side effects. Leqembi, or lecanemab, is currently on the market, and this comes with typically about an out-of-pocket cost of $8,000, $50,000 to Medicare. And you need to be near a big medical treatment center because you have to be assessed for brain bleeding and brain swelling that happens about 30% of the time. Doesn't work as well in women, who are 2/3 of Alzheimer's patients. And it also doesn't work quite as well in the people with the highest genetic risk. Donanemab is another one that we may see approved by the FDA. It's been slowed, that process has been slowed, probably because of the risks associated. The protocol that we use does this. It improves cognition on average by 3 points. Compared to no treatment at all, it improves cognition by a delta, a difference of 5 to 6 points per year. So how do we do this? Again, there's no easy pill. There's no easy button. There's no easy IV. But the side effects that we see are that your blood pressure normalizes. Your diabetes can be resolved. Many people will say that their mood is better, their sleep is better, right? So we get the benefits of whole body health, not just brain health. I don't have this in my slides because it's hot off the press. Last Friday, Dr. Dean Ornish out of UCSF in San Francisco published the first randomized controlled trial. The trials that I just described to you were feasibility trials where we took 23 and 25 participants. All of them went through the intervention. In Dean Ornish's paper, they took 49 participants and half of them went through a control and half of them were in the intervention. And in the research world, this is a better way to correlate the cause of what is actually driving the outcomes. And they saw a significant improvement in mild cognitive impairment and people with dementia associated with Alzheimer's disease after just 5 months. Very quick turnaround. They did not see that in the control group. So when we do nothing, unfortunately, this is the story we're all told. We get decline, we get suffering, but that's not the only option. So how do we know? I've seen it, I've measured it, and I'm not the only one. So if you were to take, I'm going to suggest that we, basically, what are we going to do, right? All these success stories. How did you do it? How do we do it? How do we all do it? I think part of it is that we need a new paradigm. So the conventional perspective is that if we get rid of amyloid plaques that cause Alzheimer's, then we solve the Alzheimer's problem. However, when we do that, we actually get worse cognition. And so what do we need to do? I think we need to go back to common sense. Who has a houseplant that they're trying to keep alive? Hopefully you do better than me because I've killed air plants. But I know, right? But if you were to have a houseplant that started to look like this guy, what would you think? Would you think misfolded proteins, beta amyloid, is building up? No. When you have a complex organism, you think, does it have enough water? Is it getting enough sunlight? Does it have enough nourishment? Right? What is it that this organism needs to flourish, to look like this? And why wouldn't we take the same approach when it comes to the brain, to the body? And so that's what we're going to do here. So the causes of dementia, these might not come as a surprise. This is common sense, but uncommon practice these days. Nutrients. We can have too much, too little, in the wrong place, at the wrong time. When we have imbalances in these areas, we end up with dysregulation and disease. Toxic exposures. We know that cigarette smoking, we know that air pollution, there is very well validated research associating these with cognitive decline. And there are others I'll share as well. Infections. There are several infections that we see actually in the amyloid plaques of individuals with dementia after they pass away on autopsy. Now, amyloid, I don't believe is the cause, right? We want to go upstream. What's triggering the amyloid? Many people don't realize that amyloid plaques and tau proteins, and particularly amyloid, it's antimicrobial. It is there to protect us, not to cause dementia. And so when we see it, when we notice that it's popping up on an MRI or in a blood test, we want to ask the question, why? What triggered it? And these are the things that do. Stress. Anybody relate to that? Has anyone seen that? A caregiver for someone struggling with dementia is anywhere from 2.5 to 6 times more likely to develop dementia in their lifetime compared to someone that never cares for someone with Alzheimer's. The stress and the burden of caregiving is very real. But other stressors can do this too. And now, I'm not going to let you off the hook if you're that person that wants to fish or lie on the beach in your retirement. We need some stress. We need purpose. We need meaning. We need exercise. That's going to stimulate our brain. It's the bicep curls of cognitive function. It's to engage. Structure. Some of us have genetic, molecular structure predispositioned for this disease process. Is everyone familiar? Do you know your ApoE status? Anybody heard of ApoE? What a fun opportunity to introduce you. So this is a way for you or your family members to understand your genetic risk for developing dementia and Alzheimer's and also cardiovascular disease. So the entire population of the planet has about a 13% risk of developing Alzheimer's. And if you have ApoE, you get one from mom and one from dad. We're not blaming anybody here today, but you don't know which comes from who. You get one from mom and one from dad, and it's a 2, a 3, or a 4. And if you have 2s and 3s, you basically reduce your risk of developing dementia. If you've got one copy of the 4, your risk goes up to 30%. If you've got 2 copies, one from mom and one from dad, if you're ApoE 4-4, your risk of developing Alzheimer's in your lifetime goes up to well over 50%. APOE, like elephant, ApoE. And 10 years ago, I had lots of patients saying, why would I test that? There's nothing I can do. I don't want the anxiety associated with knowing that I might be destined to get Alzheimer's. But genes are not your destiny. When we know this, we can be empowered. We can start making decisions. We can start planning and preparing and preventing even earlier. If we know that we carry an ApoE 4, we can tell our grandkids, our children, that they can start looking and they can start making these decisions and making these lifestyle changes that will reduce their risk significantly. When we talk about structure, I'll share a little bit more about an open airway at night, sleep apnea, and how that can lead to cognitive decline. Traumatic brain injuries. There are other places that structure comes up. And then we'll also talk a bit through signaling, the signals that go into our brain that either tell us to be in a fight or flight or defend mode, or into a regenerative, rebuilding, healing, and repair mode. So we want to make sure that those are the signals that are turned on. Questions before I go into some examples of some inspiring stories? Yeah, so the ApoE test is available through LabCorp, Quest. You can ask your primary care provider. And if anybody's heard of things like 23andMe, all of the genetic testing that you can find online, they would all have that ApoE. It's a single nucleotide polymorphism, or a SNP, which is a big mouthful. Not that you need to know that. But it is a very simple genetic test. It's in there. If you have done 23andMe, you have this information. You'll just have to go back to that data and probably log back in and look in there for it. It's in there. Does what? If you read it on 23andMe, it is written that way so that lay people can understand the genetic risk. Yeah. Any other questions coming up? Yeah, go ahead.
Can you talk a little bit more about how apnea will increase your risk?
Yes, you are segue queen. Thank you very much. Yeah. Genetic testing? Yeah, you can ask a primary care provider, a neurologist, a cardiologist. So ApoE is also associated with cardiovascular risk. And so your primary care provider, if you already have a relationship with a neurologist or a cardiologist, they would also be able to do that and understand what it means. Yep, yeah, exactly. Just ask, say, I want to know my ApoE status. APO, E is an elephant. ApoE, yep. Yeah, and there's a lot more information about that in the book as well. Okay, so I wanted to share a few stories. So Richard came into my office, and they lived in Utah. They had driven all the way to San Diego to see us, and he had a big family with a lot of grandkids, and his daughter said, he doesn't remember their names. Yes, there's a lot of them, but he used to remember their names, and he used to remember the names of the rural farm animals. The cats versus the dogs versus the horses versus the cows. Now he's calling a cat a dog and a horse a cow. And he also was suffering with incontinence. He was losing his dignity. She was worried he was going to have to go into memory care. And so as a last-ditch effort, they drove all the way to California and saw us. And 3 days after he committed to the organic ketogenic diet that we serve at CMC, at Clear Mind Center, and that I advocate for in the book, he remembered his grandkids' names. The incontinence resolved, and he knew the names of the farm animals. Well, one of his sons came into town and brought the basketball team of boys that he had created, and their favorite pastime with Grandpa was to go get pizza and soda and ice cream. And so he fell out of ketosis. That's a highly processed, highly palatable, high sugar diet. And when he fell out of the ketogenic diet that we had suggested for him, which is carbohydrate restriction, lots of veggies, when he fell out of that, sure enough, incontinence came back, stopped remembering the grandkids' names, and couldn't remember the farm animals again. It was crystal clear to the family at that point, and they committed fully to having him on a ketogenic diet long term. It was profound. Ronnie was living with her granddaughter was living with her. She was one of these girls who had moved back in after college, and she was going to nursing school, and she was very excited about health and wellness, and so she came to every visit with Ronnie. And Ronnie had always been an avid exerciser. Throughout her entire life, she'd gone to aerobics, and she had gone on walks every single day. But what she wasn't doing was one of the types of exercise that I describe in the book. It's called dual task, D-U-A-L, as in two things at the same time. You engage cognitively at the same time as physically. And Ronnie's granddaughter, she heard me suggest this, and she went home and she did it. They dove in fully. So what they'd do is they would go on walks, and they would increase the intensity of the walk, but they also started talking. And at first, Ronnie's granddaughter would quiz her on the anniversaries and the birthdays in their family, things she was emotionally attached to, and things that she kind of already knew, but couldn't remember all the time. And then a few weeks later, She started quizzing her about all the neighbors and all of their names and their children's names, people she'd known for a long time and that she, had relationships with, but she couldn't always remember that neighbor's name. And then she got even better. So they started wearing weights when they would go on their walks. They started doing more hills. They started going for longer walks. And they started learning the names of the trees and the plants and the birds. And then they started learning the Latin names of all of these things. So they just kept upping the ante. So that's what we're looking for here, to get the benefit of dual task exercise. This can be as simple as walking and talking. But you want to be at about 70 to 80% of your physical capacity. So you want to get your heart rate up. You want to maybe get in some strength training. And you want to be engaged, not so much that it's so hard that you're doing math and you hate it and you'll never do it again and you want to give up, but not so easy that you're checked out and thinking about your to-do list and what's on the agenda for later today. Right? You want to be engaged both physically and cognitively together, and what we see in the science is that you get more benefit for your brain when you do this. And we can make it really fun. Is anybody into the pickleball craze? This is one of my favorites because you're socially engaged. You're often outside. There's hand-eye coordination. And you're also potentially learning strategy as you run back and forth across the court, getting your heart rate up. Ballroom dancing. Is everyone familiar with ballroom dancing for brain support and helping with cognition? You're engaged physically. You're engaged socially. You're engaged with the music. When we engage our brain in multiple ways at the same time and we engage our body, we get even more benefit. Priscilla and her son came into my office, and she had been struggling with cognitive decline for a long time. Her MoCA score was an 8. So again, what's normal? 26 and above. 30 is perfect. She was an 8. Single-digit MoCA scores, I still struggle to have a lot of confidence. Now, I will never tell someone there isn't hope because of what Linda proved to me was possible, and then again, what Priscilla proved to me was possible. Priscilla came in with a MoCA of 8. Her son was about to put her into memory care, and again, as a last-ditch effort, they thought, let's see if there's any other reason she might be having Alzheimer's other than just her brain deteriorating. Is there a cause? And sure enough, when we looked, she had obstructive sleep apnea. Now, Priscilla was thin. She didn't have a partner who would know if she snored or not. No one had ever thought to look that she might have sleep apnea. She woke up tired in the mornings, but everybody just kind of chalked it up to she's growing older. When we treated her sleep apnea, which we did aggressively and quickly, her cognition improved and her MoCA score nearly doubled to 15 in just 10 months. She was able to remain living in her home. Her son came in and said the words that I most enjoy hearing, I got my mom back. He described the night before how he had been in her kitchen with her and he had grieved. She had cooked for him. She had cooked for him most of his life, and she had lost the ability to cook. And he had watched her take a carrot out of the bag, take the carrot peeler out of the drawer, peel the carrot, chop the carrot, put it into soup, put the carrot peeler into the dishwasher, and he had started crying. She had gotten back the ability to cook. This is life-changing, right? This is the ability to maintain our dignity when we can feed ourselves, when we can dress ourselves, when we can go to the bathroom on our own. And by getting aggressive about treating something like sleep apnea, covered by Medicare, available through your doctor, if you take nothing else away today, if you or a loved one is struggling with cognitive decline, don't wait to think something's wrong with your sleep. Test it anyways. Be proactive. Advocate for yourself. This is available to you and it is covered by Medicare. No one with cognitive decline should go without a sleep study.
Okay. And this might be a good point for an intermission.
All right. Yeah. The music is on.
Because you learn,
I love it.
you learn better when you're
do.
laughing or when you've recently got up and got your blood flowing. So we're going to get the blood flowing. It's a good time to take a break, too, if you want to go to the restrooms. So we're going to take a little break. We're going to hear from Rebecca. Thank you. She brought me glasses.
We're going to party.
All right, we're going to party for a few minutes, and then we're going to get back on our session.
Test us. All right, everybody get up. Who wants glasses? Put them on. We're going to dance. Get up. Start moving. All right, just start with a simple twist. I don't know if you've been listening at all, but exercise resistance training also very important. That's what we do at Club Hope. Coming to Club Hope is a silver sneakers. We're going to have it soon. I'm very excited about that. So just know when you go to a gym, find somebody who's a functional trainer that knows. Let's keep you at your homes. Let's keep you smarter than you've been for a while. All right, we're going to do some things right here. Actually, let's surf right here. Ready? Everybody surf it out. Here we go. Come on, forward. Obliques. Let's go. Come on. Hoot, hoot, hoot. Keep going. I need a little toot. If you don't have enough room, find room and dance it out. Come on, let's have some fun. If you need to go to the bathroom, drink of water, you can do that as well. Switch sides, surf the other way. Let's go. Woo! I can't see any of you all. There's some sunflowers in my way, but as long as you can see me. All right, shake it out. Come on, let's go. Twist it. Look at you. Look at you. I got some Club Hope. Raise your hands if you work out at Club Hope. Slowly but surely, we got more and more coming. We have a good time. So far, nobody's regretted it, or they just don't tell me. All right, here we go. Tap, side, back. Oh, here we go. Think about it. Cross, side, back. Cross, side, back. One more this way. Cross, side, back. March it out. Oh, yeah, I make you think, too. Here we go. Cross, side, back. Cross, side, back. Cross, side, back. One more. Cross, side, back. Yeah, march it out. Just moving, listening to music. It stimulates our brain. It's all about staying young, having fun. We got one more song. This is what you do not get to do. Absolutely no wipeouts. That's right. But we can drum it. Let's go, drum it. Drum it. Bouncing a ball, playing catch, bouncing a ball. It's all part of being young, staying smart, and having fun. Feedback. Come on, keep those balls in the air. Keep them in the air, all the way to the back. Come on, up. Here we go, drum it out. Come on. Drum, drum, drum. Ooh. Don't worry, if they hit you in the head, it should not hurt. You'll be fine. Just keep passing it around. Pass it around. Get in a circle at one point and try the challenge to not let the ball drop. Here we go. Come on, mashed potato. I'm tired. I'm out of shape. I've missed you all. I had my own little surgery. Yeah, even me. This is my first workout in 2 months. When you gotta take a break, you gotta take a break, people. Otherwise, she's got it. Drum it. This is your chance to show me up. I'm so out of shape. Come on, let's go. I gotta take a nap after this. But I'll be back in full force in no time. Oh, mashed potato. I brought toys, so while we're doing this, shake it out. If you have time, I can't talk. I am so out of shape. Do not be me when you grow up. No, you actually do. So I did bring special things today. If you have time afterwards, yeah, keep going. Come on, don't be standing there. We only got like 1 more minute. I have enough trouble talking. I brought some things today to show you to go home and do exercises that you can do at home that keeps you smart, remember? It's all about cross body, balance, music, touching your nose. Can you do this and touch your nose? Can you switch? I don't know. See? 3 fun little things. We stop moving. We stop being kids. Stop being a kid. Enjoy it. Live your life the best. That's it. Thank you very much. Come see me afterwards. You can have them for now. It's
So fun.
Rebecca. One more round of applause for Rebecca. Thank you. That was amazing. Amazing. I just have a couple more stories, and then I know lunch will be served after. So if we want to come back to it, have I lost you? Here, we'll do it. Okay, everybody. 1, 2, 3. Shh. Wow, that really does work. That's amazing. So exercise. Thank you so much, Rebecca. That was phenomenal and fun. Whenever we want to engage cognitively, we want to be sure that it's fun. We're much, much, much more likely to stick with it if we look forward to it, if we enjoy it, and it helps our brain when we are having a good time. And so whenever you think about exercise, the guidelines that we recommend are at least 200 minutes per week with some combination of strength training, muscle building, of aerobic exercise, and there's a calculation in the book in case you're interested about what does aerobic mean for me? What does vigorous or moderate exercise mean for me? We're not talking about a stroll in the park where our heart rate stays in the 50s. We're talking about getting that heart rate up, working that muscle of the heart. And then we also want to use dual task exercise that we talked about a minute ago to even get more benefit for our brain. So we talked about Priscilla, that how structurally, if we're not getting oxygen in at night, we're creating hypoxia in the brain that is associated with neurodegeneration, with decline and cellular death in the brain. We can get it back if we treat it. The body and the brain want to heal, but we've got to be able to breathe at night. Chris was struggling with very high stress levels. Her son was getting married, and he was also chronically ill. She was an OR nurse. She worked in the operating room for about 30 years. And this was in 2021, just after COVID, when everybody was struggling to hire nurses. She didn't want to leave her team. But she was noticing that she couldn't keep up with the electronic health system, the electronic health record. She had to stay late on her shift. She was in her 60s, and she thought, oh, it's just age. Maybe it's sleep deprivation. Maybe it's the stress of the wedding. Why can't I learn new things on the computer? She would have to ask her colleagues. She would repeat questions. And a couple people were nervous for her. And so she signed up for a clinical trial. And I found out that she was still taking call 1 night per week, where she wasn't sleeping at all. She was sleep deprived. The stress was real. We measured it. We were able to measure her cortisol levels, or a stress hormone that when we have too much of it, actually causes atrophy of the hippocampus, the memory center of the brain. And so I, like any good doctor, wrote a letter to her supervisor and said, no more call, no more night shift for this woman. We need to protect her brain. She started going for walks with her husband. He was very supportive. One of the things that increases my confidence that someone is going to improve when we put all of these lifestyle changes into place is when they have a supportive partner doing it with them. They got into ketosis together. He dropped her off for her sleep study and picked her up the next morning. He was very supportive, and Chris had a MOCA score of 21 when we first saw her. 6 months later, when we measured at the end of the study, she was at 27 and able to keep her job. And just a few months after that, she was at 29, almost a perfect MOCA score. I've since started seeing her son and her husband and her daughter-in-law, and it's really fun to see the dynamics between families and also to watch them cheer each other on, to prioritize their health together, to say, instead of turning on the TV after a family dinner, let's play a card game, let's engage. Let's share movies about things that are fun and exciting and that are also not just entertaining, but where we're cognitively learning something that we can put into practice, particularly about health. It's been a ton of fun to watch their family transform. Luigi was also in the clinical trial. He had suffered from a stroke. So he had, I think of strokes sort of like traumatic brain injuries. They're not exactly like having played football. But part of the brain suffers after an injury, and there's an inflammatory response. There's repair that needs to happen. He also had the highest levels of toxic mold, of Roundup, glyphosate, and of other chemical toxins that I had ever seen in anyone. So we had him, again, move out of his moldy bedroom. And he was a handyman, he was a contractor. And because his MOCA score was 16, this was the cutoff for us. If somebody had a MOCA score of 16, that's kind of, getting into the middle. This is significant dementia, and for some people diagnosed Alzheimer's. So he had to have a medical proxy in the room. Is everybody familiar with that and have one lined up if you need it? So his medical proxy came in, and while he was running to the bathroom, she said, he's a handyman, but everybody has him turn up. But then they have some other handyman come and fix all the issues he creates. It was so sweet. You could tell that Luigi was just beloved by his community, but he was losing his ability to work. And his daughter, she actually was living in Oklahoma. She had grown up in San Diego and had moved with her husband to the Midwest. And they were uprooting their teenage kids who were in high school so that she could go back to San Diego and care for her dad. Well, we got the toxins out. We got him on an organic ketogenic diet. We did some things to help with traumatic brain injuries and post-stroke. We, of course, got him exercising. We got his sleep more optimized. And 6 months later, his MOCA score had improved to a 20. And his daughter, when she showed up with her kids, he started being the one to run them to school and pick them up at the end of the day. He was helping her. So instead of having that role reversal of her becoming the parent, he was able to stay the parent. She was able to stay the daughter. And his grandson got to learn some of the handyman tips and tricks from him. What can you do to protect your brain health starting today? As we go through this list, I want you to pick one. And before you leave this room, turn to your neighbor, get out your phone and text someone or call someone. I want you to commit to at least one thing that you're going to do starting today to protect your brain health. Does everybody have something in mind? Maybe we've triggered something, making an appointment for the sleep study, or at least making the appointment with your primary care provider for that ApoE test. Maybe you already know where the gym is and you have a gym membership, but you haven't been going. But there's a new idea about a dual task exercise that might be fun. A few things we've talked about. So I hope everybody is inspired to choose one. So diet. I talked about the organic ketogenic diet, but a simple thing that you could do today is reduce processed carbohydrates in particular. Reduce sugar, but in particular processed foods like grains, breads, pastas, of course ice cream, all the good stuff, cookies. But there are phenomenal, Pam here will tell you, there are phenomenal alternatives that do not leave you feeling deprived. That many people find that when they can reduce carbohydrates in their diet, they start feeling more energy, they sleep better, and it's worth it, especially when there are fun keto desserts around. Tomorrow night, Friday night, we are having an open house at the Clear Mind Center. I will be back there in case there are questions that aren't answered today, and you will get to sample the incredible food. Exercise. We talked about dual task exercise. Rebecca took us through some really fun exercises today. It's simple. Just move. Commit to some sort of movement. Sleep. Optimizing sleep. One thing that I think many of us in our society hear is you can sleep when you're dead, right? Just wait. Just get through it, right? Pile everything on your plate, particularly when you have multiple roles of caring for someone, working, raising a family potentially. But sleep is so crucially important. We see that people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, one night of sleep deprivation increases the amyloid plaque in their brain. You can imagine that over decades, and particularly as we get older, that is even more important to avoid. We want to make sure that we get that deep sleep. We want 7 hours of sleep minimum, and hopefully that can be continuous. I know that doesn't happen for everyone, but as much as possible continuous, and allowing yourself to get right back to sleep, avoiding phones before bed, screens, and also if you wake up in the middle of the night, try not to get on your screens. Read a book. I have one. So 7 hours minimum of sleep, and then an hour and a half of REM sleep. This is when we consolidate memories. This is when we're dreaming, that rapid eye movement state. And this is when also we take that emotional bite out of maybe a stressful event that happened during the day. If we remember that the following day and we haven't had good sleep, we're more irritable. We're more apt to raise that cortisol level again. Now, we need cortisol to get up out of bed in the mornings, but we don't want it high at night. We want to be able to sleep and rest and regenerate and cleanse our brain of those plaques, but also of the toxins that can build up from our exposures, but also because every cell in our body metabolizes, and we need that rest to be able to get rid of it. So get sleep, enough sleep, high quality sleep, and make sure you don't have apnea. Again, if you take nothing else away, treat sleep apnea aggressively. Even if they tell you have mild sleep apnea, make friends with your CPAP. Mouth tape is an option. There are oral devices. It's not just CPAPs. So if I say sleep apnea and you go, no, I never want to put that mask on, there are other options. I know it's a chore, but go to your doctor, advocate, find someone that can help you figure out a way to keep your airway open at night. It is so crucially important. Stress management. Now, this might mean going to church. You're going to church on Sunday, and you decide to start doing, maybe there's a Bible study on Tuesdays and Thursdays that you can sign up for. It's social. It helps with stress. Now, if those ladies aren't that fun to be with, don't do it. That sounds more stressful, right? But it might mean reading out of the Bible, but every morning at the same time, having a ritual around it. Maybe there's a prayer practice you can commit to, a meditation practice. There's a lot of literature, scientific literature, peer-reviewed, randomized controlled trials around using meditation for cognitive function. And we see that there's one in particular, the Kirtan Kriya, which is just 12 minutes a day. And it's totally free. And it improves cognitive function. It improves many of the things that we've already discussed. Better sleep, less inflammation, better blood sugar regulation, better blood pressure. Antihypertensives are so the medications that you take for blood pressure are the only known medication to prevent Alzheimer's. So if you have high blood pressure, diet, exercise, sleep, stress management, all of these things can help. But don't skip the medication if your doctor has prescribed it. That's important. And then toxin avoidance. So I recommend an organic ketogenic diet that helps to get toxins out. It helps to prevent our exposure to toxins if we're eating organic. But you can also do things like open your doors and windows on these beautiful days. Our indoor air quality tends to be the worst because it's concentrated, our floors and our paints and our furniture off gases. But we can open doors and windows. I have one of my late teachers, Dr. Walter Credian, he always said, the solution to pollution is dilution. When we can open our doors and windows and let that fresh air in, we get better air quality. Or better yet, just get outside. Get outside. So how do we know that Alzheimer's is reversible? Is everybody else a little more convinced? I've shared that I've seen it. I've shared that I've measured it. I've shared a new paradigm for how to think about it, right? Like that plant. What we want to do is think through all the things that could be harming the brain. And then we want to do all of the things that support positive brain health. And fortunately, I am not the only person seeing this, right? Lots of people are seeing this. Pam is seeing this at CMC. We're seeing people get better. Dr. Dean Ornish just published that randomized controlled trial that came out last Friday that showed us that people in the intervention group get better when people in the control group don't, after just 5 months of doing the things that I described here. So causes of dementia, we covered nutrient imbalances and why a ketogenic diet is helpful, but there's lots of things that a doctor can test. Make sure your B12 levels are optimized, your homocysteine isn't too high, you are getting enough omegas and vitamin D. These are relatively routine lab tests that your primary care provider can do for you. And I talk more about them in the book. We can reduce toxic exposure. and help our body to get rid of toxins. Sauna therapy, we say that that is associated with reduced risks of dementia. Infections, we can treat infections. This one I didn't talk about, but oral gum disease, P. gingivalis that causes gingivitis, those bacteria end up in amyloid plaques. They trigger amyloid plaque production. And so we want to make sure that we have really good oral hygiene. Go see the dentist. Brush your teeth twice a day. Floss at least once a day. It makes a difference in not only your brain health, but in your cardiovascular risk as well. Stress, manage it. Get enough exercise, get enough engagement, find purpose and meaning. And also, take time for yourself. Take quiet time. Create a daily practice of meditation or prayer. And signaling. When we have enough, vitamin D is a hormone, thyroid hormone, potentially sex hormones like estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHEA, and pregnenolone. These are all hormones that tell our brain to create new neurons, create new connections between them. All of these are ways that we can be empowered to optimize our brain health. And I hope that you've learned a little bit more about them. And you can make a decision right now. So take a minute, pull out a pen, pull out your phone if you don't have a pen, text someone. Who am I going to text? When we have accountability, we're more likely to do this. What are you going to do today to protect your brain health? Are you going to make a change in your diet? Are you going to make a change in your exercise routine? Are you going to schedule that sleep study? Are you going to wear your CPAP that you have but that you hate? Are you going to start going to church more regularly or start opening the Bible more regularly? Are you going to open your doors and windows and get outside? Maybe change your diet. What are you going to commit to? So again, take a minute. And while you're waiting in line for lunch, or I'm going to take questions in just 1 second, tell someone what you're committing to. They can be your accountability buddy. Make sure that you follow through. All right. Can I share one more story? Okay. So Marlene signed up for my clinical trial in 2021, and she was in this situation. Her husband had passed away. Her older siblings had passed away. She had no children. And she had run a nursery with her husband, but it had gotten overgrown, dilapidated. It wasn't open anymore. And she hadn't done her taxes in years. She was so overwhelmed. And her worst fear, she came in terrified, like absolutely terrified, because as a last-ditch effort, again, she was coming into my office because she wanted to get into a senior living facility that was an age-in-place model, where if you moved in, you could stay forever at the same rate, but you couldn't have any measurable cognitive decline. And they had done the test on her, and she had had cognitive decline. She was not eligible. Her second cousins lived there, and they were her only living relatives. And so I could understand her terror. She was afraid she was going to die demented and alone at home. And so my staff kept coming to me and saying, "Are you sure Marlene should be in the study? She's very anxious. She calls multiple times a day, and she isn't sure if she should be doing this. She needs reassurance constantly. She wants to talk to us for hours. We have to make time on Mondays to listen to all the voicemails she's left over the weekend." And the health coach we were working with, she said, "Heather, I don't know that she should be at the trial. I think she might mess with your data." Well, 6 months later, Marlene proved us all wrong. Her MOCA score improved by 8 points. She was now in the normal range. She came in wearing her beautiful blue dress that she hadn't worn in 10 years because she had lost weight, and she was now wearing the things in the back of her closet that she thought she might never wear again. And she had gotten her taxes done. She had cleaned up the nursery. And you know what else happened for Marlene? Her neighbor had been diagnosed with cancer in our 6 months working together on this project, and she started making food for him. She made her process not just about her and her decline. She made getting better about more than her. She made it about her neighbor and his health. And that inspired her to keep going when it got hard. And the reason I share Marlene's story is because these changes can feel overwhelming. But if Marlene can do it, anybody can do it. Thank you all.
Thank you so much. I wonder if there might be a question or two. And our lovely team is handing out surveys. Your surveys help us. We are a nonprofit, so we do register everyone that comes to report that, and also your surveys help show what we're doing as a nonprofit. So if you could fill that out and give us feedback, we hope to see you each and every month. And we're going to have instructions on how lunch is going to go, so it doesn't end up just being crazy. And so Michelle, our gerontologist, do you want to tell them a little bit right now?
Yep, but real quick, before we break for lunch, because we still have about 10 minutes.
And we're going to use all those 10 minutes, so hold tight.
So real quick about lunch. When we go to lunch, we're going to go kind of in a fourth at a time so we don't have a stampede. We do have barbecue for you today, so let's go ahead and give Clear Mind Center at Avita Senior Living, Rolling Hills, a round of applause for providing lunch.
Thank you.
Yep. And we've also been passing out the invitations to their open house if you want to get more time with Dr. Sandison.
And this Clear Mind Center is something to see, guys. It really helps cement in your mind what she's talking about. It's really astonishing. All right, so fill out your surveys, and we're going to start asking questions. Jillian, would you mind helping with that?
Yep. Absolutely. So we're going to have, I'll come right back to you. I've got one in the back. We're going to have some awesome information. So as you guys are orderly walking towards your meal, please keep in mind that there's going to be fantastic information going, so you'll want to listen up.
Yep, don't go to lunch yet. We've got about 10 more minutes before we start the meal. So first question.
Right over here.
Yes, ma'am. I have a very special friend. He's kind of in denial. And in my estimation, he would score well below 26 on the MOCA test. Could you take time out of your busy schedule and take a detour and go to the White House?
Man, I hope somebody got that on video.
We always got to sneak in that.
That's amazing.
Okay, we have another question. Hold on, folks, I'm going to ask you to keep the volume down so those of us that are over 40 and can't hear can hear a little bit better.
Have you studied how alcoholism affects the dementia?
Yeah, so I've seen more than a handful of patients who have struggled with excess alcohol consumption. So in 2020, The Lancet, which is a very reputable journal out of the UK, published a commission report on Alzheimer's. And they suggest that 40% of worldwide dementias can be prevented. I think that number is much, much higher. And they list the 12 modifiable risk factors when it comes to dementia, and alcohol consumption is one of them. So for anyone with cognitive decline, my opinion is that you should avoid alcohol entirely. Alcohol is a toxin. It requires effort. It requires resource for our body to detoxify it. And most of us can probably relate to waking up the next morning after a couple drinks and not feeling like our brains work quite as well. When we compound that night over night, week after week, year over year, we can end up with irreparable harm. And vitamin B1 deficiency, thiamine, there's a type of dementia that is associated with specifically with excess alcohol consumption. So if you're going to have a drink, I actually recommend low sugar options, usually like a vodka soda or tequila and soda. I'm not condoning drinking, but for many people to stop beer and wine, I think we thought for a long time, beer and wine are better than hard alcohol. And yet they raise our blood sugar so much that you're getting this combination of sugar and alcohol, which actually can be more damaging.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Doctor.
great question.
So how many of us are going to start being sober and keto diet tomorrow?
Baby
All right.
steps, baby steps.
Got another question here.
My question was, I was just wondering where the place is on Friday night for the meeting.
Oh, what a great question. So on Friday night, we will be at Avita Rolling Hills. And do we have is there a part of town that's in? I'm not as familiar.
Yeah. It is west, and so there are invitations on your table. And if there's not an invitation on your table with the address, we have some over here at the Avita Rolling Hills table with all of the details. If you need the details for the open house, please raise your hand and we'll bring that to you. Okay, next question.
I've got one over here. Yes, ma'am.
Is that me?
Could you explain the keto diet?
Yes, absolutely. So this is probably not in the next 2 minutes. However, there's a long, lengthy explanation of the ketogenic diet in the book. But essentially what's happening there is we're getting metabolic flexibility. Instead of burning sugar, glucose, or carbohydrates for fuel, we're wanting to burn fat for fuel. The brain prefers ketones, and as we age, we all develop insulin resistance, which means that we don't turn that sugar that we eat, whether it comes from bread or pasta or cereal or Skittles, we don't burn that sugar as efficiently as we used to, and so our brain doesn't have as much resource. Now, our brain only makes up 2% of our body weight, but it takes up 20% of the energy that we burn every year. And so when we switch the fuel source to something we can burn more efficiently, it's almost like the lights turn back on.
Doc, if you had to break that down in just a few sentences for us lay people, would it be then a lot of vegetables and proteins and none of the fun stuff, or as little of the fun stuff as possible?
So the fun part is how you feel.
Yeah.
Now, those first couple of days, they can be a little rough. When I go into ketosis, I have a day where I only think about donuts. It's rough. But once you get up over that hump, many people don't miss the carbohydrates. Now, we were told in the 80s and 90s, so this can be a big shift in our brain. We were told in the 80s and 90s, right, that we should have a foundation of carbohydrates, reduce the fats. Fats are bad. Your brain is made of fat. We need good, high-quality fats. And so even if you're not ready to get into ketosis, what you can do is there are ketones. You can buy exogenous ketones, so ones that come from outside of your body, and you can take them in a supplemental form, and that can help your brain get that resource, get that fuel source, without having to reduce your carbohydrates quite so drastically. But even just starting to reduce your carbohydrates, many people will notice a difference. Increasing, yes, you mentioned vegetables, so what does this look like? Breakfast, eggs, skip the toast, skip the pancakes, but eggs, avocado, tomatoes, veggies, sauteed veggies, onions. And then for lunch, a big salad with salmon, wild-caught salmon on top of it. Again, avocado are great things to have. You can have protein, yes. You can have the barbecue, but just without the sugary sauce. You can have chicken. We do a lot of chicken thighs, right? I tend to skip the breasts because they don't have as much fat. So we want to get those good fats, the avocado, the coconut oil. Another thing, a simple, quick thing that many people can do, and they'll notice changes in their cognition, is coconut oil. You can just take a tablespoon or two of coconut oil. Too much all at once might cause disaster pants, so be careful there. But half a tablespoon a couple times a day, and you can improve cognitive function because coconut oil has something called medium chain triglycerides, or MCTs. You might have seen these advertised. And those MCT, that medium chain triglyceride, that oil, becomes ketones in your brain most easily. Yes, that's. So starting the morning with a cup of coffee with some MCT oil or some coconut oil in it, or even heavy cream, so you can have a lot of the creamy stuff. Very satisfying. M is in Mary, C is in cat, T is in Tom. MCT, medium chain triglycerides. Yeah, you can definitely get it at the health food store. You can get it it's available most places these days.
When you mentioned toxins, we live in Wichita where the air quality is often bad because of allergens. So the open window concept, what should we do in that case?
Yeah, so air filters. Air filters are an option for people who live near a freeway, when there's allergens in the air, and near industrial plants. Like, there are some people, opening your doors and windows just doesn't make sense. You're going to let in stuff that you want to keep out. And so then air filters, there's one, they do not pay me to say this, but my favorite one is the GC Multigas, G as in gorilla, C as in cat. Animals are fun today. Multi by IQ Air. That is my favorite one. There's a bunch of air filters on the market, but that one, most of my patients have. What's that? You can get it on the internet. Yes, they'll ship it to you. But my patients who have tried other air filters swear by that one.
Okay, got a question here.
My question is about sleep study.
Yeah.
When I went through a sleep study, I spent the night and they had all kind of wires on my head, whatever. And then when I asked my wife to do a sleep study because of her snoring,
We won't tell her.
and all they did is put a machine beside her. Which one's the best type of study that?
This is a really great question. So the gold standard is still to go to an overnight clinic and do a sleep study in that clinic. They have them in hospitals, but this is a huge chore, and I know it prevents many people from getting a sleep study done. There are now, kind of in this post-COVID era, the technology improved significantly, and we have at-home sleep studies where you put on a watch and a ring, and it magically beams the information up to a sleep doctor somewhere in the world, and they can get you a CPAP or whatever you need. Those at-home devices are not as good as the clinics. They don't have as many wires and electrodes. It's not as uncomfortable. So it increases access, but it doesn't rule in many of the sleep disorders. So the gold standard is to do what you did. In the interim, if you're having trouble getting in because they're booked out for 6 months, or if it feels too overwhelming to try to coordinate all that, then getting the at-home ones done is a way that I've seen a lot more access for people. It's less expensive. It's a way for people to get that treated when it's so crucially important for your brain. So your wife, unfortunately, probably didn't get as good of a sleep study, but if you ruled in sleep apnea, that is well worth doing. And I see you're wearing a CGM, are you? Are you wearing a continuous glucose monitor? Those are one of my favorites. That is really fun. So a continuous glucose monitor, yeah, show it off. These are available, even if you don't have diabetes, you can understand what your blood sugar is doing minute to minute. And you can get them through Costco. If your primary care provider, any provider you work with that has prescription privileges, they can send it to Costco, and with the GoodRx coupon, just $60, it's $63 to be precise, you can get a continuous glucose monitor. And I did that for a couple of weeks myself, and it was the most educational. I went to medical school. It was the most educational 2 weeks. I learned more about my health and my metabolism in those 2 weeks of wearing that CGM than ever before in my life. It was well worth doing.
Very good. And before the next question, I'd like for the Empowered Senior team, all the ladies, Mindy, Terry, Randy, everyone that's helped us grow this program, to come up to the front of the room, because before lunch I want to get a picture of you, and I want to recognize you for bringing this great crowd to hear this amazing information. I'm so happy that you just talked about the glucose monitor. This is all good stuff. This is for everybody. Yes. What we're talking about today, this is for you. This is for everybody that you know, all of these wonderful medical tips.
So I get excited. I can talk forever. You're going to have to kick me off the stage when you're ready. I love this stuff. I'm so delighted to be there. It's such a privilege, and Wichita will always have such a big place in my heart because of our partnership, and also because of empowering seniors and just how welcoming and incredible. You guys in the Midwest, you really set the standard for kindness. Thank you.
Thank you. We had such a good time taping this show with you. And we're going to do an episode on Clear Mind Center. We've already taped a lot of it. Thank you. Everyone that helped make phone calls, that helped deliver flyers. Mother, come line up right over here. Okay, we're going to do a photo. And, yep, just line up right here. Okay, and you're ready to do a question? Just hang out for a second.
So we have one more question. I'm so sorry. I wish we could keep you here for the whole day, doctor. But remember, she's going to be at the open house. You have her book. And so that you can contact her. There's other ways. I bet a lot of these questions are probably answered in the book.
They are.
And so we have one young lady that was waiting, and she was wanting to know the best grains for ketosis.
Oh, so nuts and seeds we are really excited about nuts and seeds. I make an oatmeal, and the recipe is in the book. It's flax seeds, chia seeds, and hemp hearts. And so it's a type of oatmeal that will not raise your blood sugar, and you can put heavy cream in there. I think it's absolutely delicious. And there are sweeteners. So there are sweeteners like monk fruit. Xylitol is one that we don't want to. Allulose is another one. There are sweeteners that do not raise blood sugar that you can use if you're looking for those sweet treats. But grains raise blood sugar, so you do want to limit those significantly.
All right.
Yeah, the diet. There are recipes, there are meal plans. There is an entire chapter, the longest chapter is on ketosis, because this is where we get the most questions. And you can sign up for my email list at drheathersandison.com. I do free webinars all the time. We do all kinds of free education online if you're interested.
So, all right, this last question here. Again, sorry to cut you all short, but
Hi, my name's Yolanda. My question goes back to the sleep apnea. Over time, I've learned that your machine wears out after 10 years. And doctors are not so willing to do the in-house sleep study. Have you found that to be true?
Yeah, so it's a chore. I'm sorry. A lot of things I've described today are a chore. They require effort. And if you have a sleep doctor and you've had your CPAP for more than 10 years and they're not willing to update your sleep study or update your machine, get a new sleep doctor. Yeah. Advocate and find someone else that will help you. If you are struggling with your CPAP, a friend of mine, Audrey Wells, she has a whole course on making friends with your CPAP. And so she really helps people to use this. It's life-changing when you can get it to work. And there are so many different types of sleep apnea devices now. You can do the CPAP, or I've heard called the Cadillac of CPAPs, the APAP, the alternating pressure version. There are the pillows, and some people prefer the travel version to the at-home version. So there are many different ways to do this. There's the one that goes over the top, the one that goes to the side. There are so many different things we can do. The oral devices, mouth taping. So just mouth taping alone, it's a little counterintuitive, but just using surgical tape to close your mouth, this will cost $2. You can do that at night to treat mild sleep apnea and remind your body how to breathe through your nose at night. So there's also positional devices. There's lots of different things that you can do. So if you're not getting the help you need, find a new doctor. That's the takeaway.
That's my favorite one. Okay, so thank you again. Big hand for Dr. Sandison.